Hey, Devin Rose here, Lionheart Catholic. Wanted to share with you from the book Time for God by Father Jacques Philippe on mental prayer. Are you doing mental prayer right now? If you're not, and 99% of Catholics are not, then you are blocking your progress toward being a saint. And in this great book, and it's short too, it's very small as you see, Father Jacques Philippe gives some great ideas and insights into what prayer is, what mental prayer is, and why you should be doing mental prayer. He doesn't give the step-by-step instructions on how to do mental prayer, for one thing, because there really is no one technique that you have to do. But I'll actually share a blog post down in the description that gives you those steps in case you need it. But I highly recommend this book. St. Alphonsus Liguori said, "Every saint became a saint through mental prayer." When I first learned that, I knew I needed to start practicing mental prayer because I wanted to be a saint, but I had hit a spiritual plateau. I was confessing the same sins all the time. Mental prayer is what ultimately broke me through that plateau. And so Father Jacques Philippe says, while there's a certain amount of initiative and activity on the human side with prayer, the whole edifice of the life of prayer is built on God's initiative and his grace. So mental prayer is all about putting yourself in God's presence, where he takes the initiative and moves in your heart. It's silent prayer that you do before God. You're not praying aloud. You're not, you don't have to go off somewhere to do it. You can do it in the silence of your own home and start with just 5 minutes, putting yourself in God's presence. So he goes on to say that it doesn't matter whether the mental prayer is beautiful, whether it works, or whether it's enriched by deep thoughts and feelings, but rather whether it's persevering and faithful. It's faithfulness to prayer and not the quality of the prayer that matters. The quality will come from the fidelity. Time spent faithfully every day in mental prayer, even if it's poor, arid, distracted, and relatively short, is worth more than long, ardent spells of mental prayer when you feel like it. So this is great advice. He's saying, do mental prayer every day. He recommends you start at 15 minutes per day. I was too weak for that, so I started at 5 minutes and then ticked up from there by 5-minute increments every 6 months. So it took me about a year to get to 15 minutes. But what matters is that it's faithful, and so you do it, and not that you have good feelings from it. All right, let's see what else he's got here. He really echoes St. Alphonsus Liguori. So here he says, there is no spiritual progress without contemplative prayer, which is another way of saying mental prayer. Even if you've had a powerful conversion experience, you felt great fervor, you've received all these immense graces, without fidelity to mental prayer, our Christian life will soon reach a plateau and stall there, which is exactly what happened to me. And that's what's happened to lots of Catholics, even faithful Catholics who are trying to follow the church and become saints. Father Philippe says, this is because without mental prayer, we cannot receive all the help from God that we need to be transformed and sanctified in depth. The testimony of the saints is unanimous on this point. In other words, all the saints knew this, all the saints practiced it. Yet we as Catholics have not been taught about it. Most of us. I've still not heard a homily from a priest at Mass that I have been to that has explained mental prayer and how we have to be doing it. We need to be doing it. We should be doing it. There can be no deep, radical purification of the heart without mental prayer. So as you're seeing with this isn't an optional thing. It's something that if you want to be a saint, this is key. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of wallow in mediocrity. You're not going to grow closer to God, and he wants to grow closer to you. He has a good point here. He's like, what if we gave up 15 minutes of television per day in order to pray and spend that time in prayer? Would we not receive 100-fold as much, just as Jesus talked about? Mental prayer will give one the grace to live out every moment of life in a much more fruitful way. So mental prayer will actually enable you to live your life in a better way, a more holy way, a more faithful way to Christ and his church. This book has just been excellent. I highly recommend it to everyone. It's not expensive. And it dovetails perfectly with my book, Lionheart Catholic. In Lionheart Catholic, one of the secret ingredients of the saints is mental prayer. It shouldn't be a secret. Everyone should know it. And I give you the exact steps on how to do it. I'm going to link it in a blog post too. It shouldn't be secret. So it's in this book. It's in my book. It's in a blog post. You can find YouTube videos too that talk about how to do mental prayer. Your action item, if you're not already doing mental prayer, read the blog post. Start with 5 minutes per day. Place yourself in God's presence. Meditate on a particular subject of our faith. Think about it with God. Move your heart toward him and just be there with him. Ask God for the petitions that arise in your heart. Think about how you can conquer your predominant fault. Make a resolution for that. Thank God for the grace he gave you in mental prayer. And you're done. So Devin Rose, Lionheart Catholic. Time for God was actually our book of the month in my Lionheart Catholic membership. So we, as Lionheart Catholics, read it together in the membership, then did a live stream video where we talked about it all together at the end of the month. And we do that every single month. So if you're interested in Lionheart Catholic membership, I'll also put the link below. In the meantime, God bless.